Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Bayley of Evolving Alpha, and I wanted to share another recipe with you today. I really want to just kind of bring back simplicity and family meals because I know that a lot of people that I talk to struggle with what to make, and because they don't know how to meal prep, they don't know how to cook for a family. And so when I think about it, I think about just going back to when I was a kid. My family made home cooked meals. We weren't vegan, but I was just thinking, okay, what did that look like? How did it work for us as a family? And we kind of had certain meals that we rotated, things that were our favorites. So we loved as a kid having those same meals over and over. So I wanted to just kind of get back to the basics, get to some simple but really delicious and home style comfort food recipes that I can share with you guys that will make meal prep easier and simpler. And I want to show you how you can use a couple of foods and then multi-purpose them throughout the week in different meal prep functions. So for this week, that food is going to be butternut squash. So it is fall season right now. These are in season and they're absolutely delicious. Fraser's been using them like crazy because they're a lower calorie alternative to a sweet potato for him. So this is something that's really great for fat loss, because you can sub out, instead of sweet potato, the same portion of butternut squash would be less calories. So that will help with your fat loss goals. Plus, they're just really full of great vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and it always helps to get the most vitamins out of your food when you eat what's in season. So I'm definitely taking advantage of the fall vegetables right now. What we're gonna do this week is we're gonna multi-purpose the butternut squash into a spaghetti bake, but then we're also just going to use the rest of it in macro bowls throughout the week. This recipe we're doing right now is going to be for the spaghetti bake. We're going to start with the butternut squash because that's the thing that's going to take the longest to prep. So you can use a butternut squash. You'll probably use about half of one this size, but what I want you to do is just go ahead and prep the whole thing. Take the skin off, scoop out the seeds that are in the middle, and just chop it into small cubes. And then we'll roast it in the oven. So we'll use part of it for the spaghetti bake. And then you'll have those other cubes already roasted that you can just add into macro bowls during the week. So this is my butternut squash that I already prepped. And this was, for this recipe, this is my first time putting this together, so I don't have exact ingredients yet. But if you're interested in that stuff, once I prep it out and I figure out the exact measurements of everything, we do have a recipe site that I put all of that into. So if you're interested, you can check out our Veg Up Base Camp membership and you'll get all of the recipe library as a part of that membership. So what I did is I started by taking the skin off of this, cubing it up, and then for this portion, for the spaghetti bake, I did 2 cups cubed if you measure it raw, and it breaks down to about half of that once it's cooked because it kind of shrinks. So if you're measuring it out, 2 cups raw or 1 cup cooked. But like I said, just prep the whole thing at once and have the rest of it for your other meals. I baked it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then all I did, it was just really easy and soft, and I mashed it with a fork to get this mash. And the reason I do this is because this adds a cheesiness to your meals without having to add a vegan cheese, which is more processed and not quite as healthy. So I'm using this to add a little bit of that cheesy texture and flavor into our spaghetti bake. Now while the butternut squash is baking in the oven, you can go ahead and prep your other veggies. All you need to do is just roughly chop everything. So go ahead and get out your mushrooms, garlic, and I have a shallot here that I use as well. You can use onion. Onion makes me cry too much. Shallots are a little bit easier for me, so I like them. I stick to that. I did the same thing with the mushrooms. I did about 2 cups raw, chopped up, just loosely chopped. And then I've got 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. You can do that according to your own taste. And then I've just got 1 medium shallot. So I'm going to throw that into this hot pan. We're going to add in the garlic and mushrooms as well. Also, while the squash was baking in the oven and I prepped my veggies, I also went ahead and cooked the pasta on the stove. I use a lentil pasta, so the good thing about this is that it cooks up really quickly. It only took, I did it for 5 minutes because you don't want to overcook this. And since we're going to bake it as well, you're going to go with the shorter end of the cooking time. So I just did this boiling water for 5 minutes. Now I have the veggies on low heat, just sauteing, and I'm going to go ahead and use some silken tofu to add to the kind of creamy, cheesy side of this spaghetti bake. Also, once your butternut squash is done, go ahead and reduce the temperature on your oven to 375 and leave it there because that's what we're going to bake this at when it's all put together. We're going to go ahead and turn off our veggies, and then what I'm going to do is add some of this silken tofu into my butternut squash. And I'm not measuring this, I'm just going to kind of go by feel, and we'll see how much we need. So this would replicate kind of like a ricotta cheese, and it's just going to add more volume and creaminess to that cheesy side. And of course, adding tofu adds extra protein. Everyone's always worried about their protein content when they go plant-based. You're going to have plenty of protein here, especially if you're using lentil pasta, plus adding the silken tofu in here. You're going to have a lot of protein in this meal. And then another easy way to add to the cheesy factor is to use some nutritional yeast. So this is a really simple way. If you're not familiar with it, looks like kind of flakes, like orange flakes, or powdery flakes, and it has just a cheesy taste to it. So it's and again, this is also really high in protein. You get about 6 grams of protein for 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And it's often fortified with B12 as well, so you're going to get your B12. And we're just mixing and mashing those 3 ingredients together. So now we have our sauteed veggies here, and I'm going to add some pasta sauce. I might add some pasta sauce. Alright, so I'm just using the Whole Foods brand organic tomato basil pasta sauce. That's a good kind of basic Italian flavor. I'm going to start with half the jar and we'll see how we go. And then I'm going to use an organic Italian seasoning, herb seasoning, just to give it extra flavor. We're going to use the big side of this. Stir that up. Now it is smelling good. Now we're going to toss our pasta into this as well. My pasta is sticking together a little bit because I just kind of left it sitting in a blob there. But what I would recommend when I was cooking this, I was just using 2 forks like this because the lentil pasta can stick together. So I was just using 2 forks like this to kind of work it apart to keep it from sticking for that 5 minutes that it was cooking. So now we're going to just stir the pasta into the pasta sauce with the mushrooms and garlic. So we want to really get the pasta sauce mixed in there well, and then we're going to kind of fold in our creamy cheesy mixture. Alright, now that that's mixed together, we're going to add it into a bowl or an oven-safe dish. We're going to use this smaller container. We could probably break it into 2. We're just going, and I did add a little bit of oil to it beforehand so it won't stick. Okay, so it actually ended up fitting perfectly in this one dish. Now, if you like to have like that cheesy layer on top, you can add the rest of this and just kind of spread it across the top there. I think we have a lot of it actually in there, so I may not use all of this. I'll just add a little bit to the top. And then for the finishing touch, we're going to add a little bit of seasoned breadcrumbs. You can do panko breadcrumbs, you can do a vegan Italian breadcrumbs, you can do chickpea crumbs, whatever you like. If you need to be gluten-free, whatever, just choose what you like. I have some seasoned gluten-free breadcrumbs that I actually have left over from like one of those meal prep, like where you order it and you cook it yourself. So I am going to make use of that here, and we're just going to sprinkle that over the top, and this gives it that nice crunchy baked casserole texture on the top. Voila, and that's it. Now we're just going to stick it in the oven at 375 to bake it. And we'll just keep an eye on it and see how long it takes to crisp up. So I just took it out of the oven. Here's the finished product. Nice and crispy on top, hot and bubbly inside. And I actually ended up turning up the heat to 400, so I would recommend do 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes to get it nice and crispy. Now, if you want to see how to use the other foods from this recipe in your other meal prep for the week, you can check out the description box below. I will post links to two other videos that we did. One that shows you how you can use the extra butternut squash, and another video that will show you how you can use that leftover silken tofu. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching and subscribing. It always supports our channel, and we really appreciate you guys. We'll see you again soon in the next video. Bye.
What a freaking mess.
It's a beautiful mess.
Goodness gracious. I don't know how you do it. It's like you're blind when you're cooking. It just goes everywhere.